You are listening to the Toxic Mold Podcast with Steve Worsley, the toxic mold expert and your number one source for mold consulting and mitigation in the USA. Let's dive into a brand new episode.
Before we get started on this episode, here's a not-so-short disclaimer. While all attempts have been made to verify the content provided in this podcast, neither the podcaster nor the producers assume any responsibility for errors, omissions, or alternative interpretations of the issues discussed here. All information stated in this podcast is the opinion of Steve Worsley. Steve Worsley is a mold specialist with over 25 years of experience in the construction and mold industry. The Toxic Mold Podcast is for information sharing purposes only. The views expressed are those of the podcaster and his alone. These views should not be taken as expert instruction or commands. While there may be references to medical conditions and symptoms, all podcast episodes are the opinion of Steve Worsley, and any medical questions or concerns shall be addressed with the appropriate licensed medical professional or professionals. As the podcaster refers to different mold types, please be aware that Steve Worsley is not a microbiologist, and questions concerning mold specifics should be answered by the appropriate professional. Steve isn't, nor does he offer any legal advice. For any legal advice, you must speak to a lawyer. The listener is 100% responsible for his or her own actions. You can check out Steve's books on Amazon. Just go to Amazon and search for author Steve Worsley. You can also take Steve's mold education courses, such as Mold 101 and the Mycotoxin Prevention Kit, by going to cnccontractorservices.com. Again, check out his mold education courses at cnccontractorservices.com. Now, let's get to the episode.
Hello, you're listening to the Toxic Mold Podcast with myself, Steve Worsley, and we have my wife, Cassandra. It's the middle of December now.
Oh, yes, and it's getting closer and closer to my birthday month.
Yeah, actually, your birthday's in 1 month.
Yes, all
Look at
month
that.
long, celebrating.
Yeah, our listeners are probably like, yeah, we hear this every year.
That's right.
So, anyhow, today's subject's it's a very interesting one. It's something we do on every project. Well, we don't always do it. Usually our clients do it. But it's waterproofing. What's the purpose of waterproofing?
Well, the way that I think about waterproofing is it protects the wood and keeps mold from growing on it.
Yes. For viable mold growth, so for mold to colonize, reproduce, infestation gets larger and larger, it needs three major things. Mold spores,
Yep.
which is naturally present, so we don't focus on that.
Yeah.
You're not going to get rid of all the mold spores in your home because they're naturally present outside. So the second thing is a moisture source.
Yes.
So it can be humidity above 60% or a leaking pipe, but it has to have moisture, just like your grass does.
Mm-hmm.
The third thing it needs is a cellulose material. It has to have something for its food.
Yes.
So when we waterproof, it's typically, framing studs, sill plates, it's wood or OSB or plywood or whatever. Those are cellulose materials. So when you waterproof it, it prevents the mold from being able to eat the food.
Yes.
Because it's a non-cellulose material.
Correct.
Make sense?
It does make sense.
The reason we waterproof is for preventative measures down the road. That doesn't mean mold cannot grow.
Correct.
Like, you're not going to waterproof the backside of the sheetrock.
Mm-hmm. We're
waterproofing the wood framing materials.
Yes.
But in the future, if mold was to grow, and let's say it was, 2x6 studs on an exterior wall, we could literally just wipe the mold off with a sponge.
Yeah.
Or HEPA vacuum it.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's not waterproofed, the mold starts growing into that wood.
Because it's eating it.
Exactly. The purpose of mold is to promote decay, I guess. I don't know if that's a good way of saying it.
And every organism does its best to survive.
Right.
And to reproduce.
Right. For our listeners, that's the purpose of waterproofing. For our listeners, the next question probably is they're like, okay, so where do you waterproof? Let's say the sheetrock's off of this wall in front of us. Do we waterproof the studs, the sill plate, the sheetrock on the other side? Like, what do they waterproof?
Well, I would assume you're waterproofing the cellulose material upon which the mold could grow and expand.
Right.
That's in the affected areas where those combination of things exist.
Which would include the backside of the sheetrock.
Yes. What about subfloor?
So, yes, anything
Okay.
that's, cellulose material. But I guess what I'm trying to say to our listeners, you don't waterproof the entire wall. Because that entire wall, if it was full of water, you'd have major issues.
Exactly.
So we're only waterproofing from the floor level up 8 to 10 inches.
Okay.
Why is that important? There's a bunch of factors, and this is why you hire professionals. But if our listener was to waterproof after mold remediation or a moisture intrusion event and that wood is wet, what do you think that would do if the wood's still wet? If
the wood is still wet and you waterproof it, doesn't it contain the mold?
It would contain all the water in there.
Yeah, all the water. So it gives like
it would
the mold that's in it, that's in whatever you waterproofed with the moisture, it just makes it a bigger colony. Bigger colony.
Yep. But it would also promote wood rot.
Okay.
So for our listeners, you never want to apply waterproofing to wet wood.
Okay. It's got to be dry wood.
Exactly.
Okay.
And what is dry? Depending on what the wood is, if it's a softwood, a hardwood, for the most part, I just tell people if it's below 15% moisture content, which you would check with a moisture meter, then it's okay.
So, but I'm assuming that most random people don't have the ability to check the moisture content of the wood with their little gadgets because they don't necessarily have the gadgets. And I would also think they don't necessarily have the protective gear. Hence, when they waterproof and get all over their face, I would think they don't exactly know how to do all the waterproofing. So why are so many people seemingly going on YouTube and trying waterproofing themselves when more than likely they cannot get it right?
Well, I mean, I can't answer for all those people, but it's probably money, cost.
Okay.
Let's kind of backtrack a little bit. When is waterproofing applied?
After the mold has been handled, right?
Exactly.
The mitigation, the chemicals, all the things.
Yep. After, we do use chemicals. Now, my fellow professionals that are listening that are like, IICRC says you can't. We use chemicals as part of our process. We don't use chemicals to remove mold.
Yes.
It's part of the process. But we waterproof after all the mold has been removed. So the air scrubbing, and it should be done after PRV.
Okay.
Which is post-remediation verification.
Yes.
A lot of times we don't because we're there. I can look at something and say, yeah, we got all the mold out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to do a tape lift and send it to a lab.
No.
But if you want to follow the proper protocols, you should do PRV testing. But I guess my point is, for those that are listening, it's not uncommon for us to not do it until after, meaning we do it before PRV.
Okay. So the timing of waterproofing is absolutely important because you should have treated the mold first.
Yeah, we've already abrasively removed it, sanded it, blasted it, however we're abrasively removing it. So for our listeners, it's at the end of the remediation part, but prior to the rehabilitation.
So then it is not I just want to be clear on this. Waterproofing is not a substitute for the abrasive removal of mold because lots of people use waterproofing material to
cover it up.
Yes. Could you say more about that?
So that's encapsulation.
Okay. What's the difference between waterproofing and encapsulation?
So for any of our listeners that are my clients, you'll notice that I don't use the term encapsulation.
Mm-hmm.
Because to me, and if you put your lawyer hat on, you're saying we're covering up mold. You're encapsulating it. But I want to be clear, there are many circumstances where discoloration, we're not ever going to purposefully cover up mold. But discoloration, it is covered up with the waterproofing.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
We've already gone through all the steps. Once again, if we're doing remediation on an exterior wall, for our listeners, like, do you want the wall studs and the sill plates and the subfloor and all of that cut out? You're on an exterior wall. That would involve, like, if you have brick or stucco on the outside, removing that.
Exactly.
There are circumstances where it's just not feasible to remove the building materials. That's ideal, but that's not feasible. Yeah. So going back to your question, yes, we do see a ton of remediators that use waterproofing to cover up mold, which is encapsulation.
Correct.
So encapsulation is you're trying to just cover it up and keep it encapsulated so it can't release mycotoxins.
So can you say a little bit more about that? Because here's why I think it's super important. There will be situations where someone purchases a home or is thinking about purchasing a home, and they, in addition to their home inspection, mold inspection doesn't typically come with home inspection. In addition to their home inspection, they hire a mold inspector to run testing to check for mold in the house. But in certain circumstances, if the previous owner encapsulated all the mold, that mold testing would come out peachy keen.
Mm-hmm.
And so can you explain that kind of dynamic? Like, how do you work through, if you're buying a home and you want to be sure you understand what's going on with mold in the home, if somebody encapsulates the mold without telling you, what do you do?
Well, I mean, that's a very, very difficult question to answer, because you mentioned when you're purchasing a new home.
Mm-hmm.
Well, new to you.
Yes, new to you, yes.
Well, you don't own the home, so the inspector can't go and do invasive things.
Okay.
But we can't know what we can't know. Did they cover up mold? Did they cover up wood rot? We don't know what they're covering up. That's where there's a big difference. And, we talked about a project I was just on for a month. In my opinion, the seller, my client bought this house 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. The seller, in my opinion, intentionally covered up things because we found exactly what you were talking about.
Yeah, like encapsulating. And
they just went and put waterproofing down and covered up things.
Which really means just hiding them until you find them. But then I'll give you a different scenario. Let's say you have somebody listening to this podcast whose husband is like, no, we don't need to pay somebody to remove this mold. I'm just going to encapsulate it with waterproofing and you'll be just fine.
I'm going to spray it with bleach and then paint over it.
What is your take on that? Is that a solution?
No, not at all. Like I said, there are circumstances where we're applying waterproofing, but we have fully intended and took all the proper steps to remove the mold.
Okay.
There's a big difference between that and intentionally just covering it up.
Okay.
And, for that listener, for the question you just asked, don't do that.
Okay.
Because your husband probably isn't going to check the moisture content of the stuff he's covering up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a problem. For the most part, though, let's just say there was mold on this wall and I just painted it with Kills, I, as a professional, could see that that's what happened. Mm-hmm. Because I would see the texture of the mold if it wasn't removed. Now, if it was sanded down and then they did that or I did that, it would not have that texture.
Yeah.
I would look at that and be like, yeah, there was mold there before, but they took the proper steps.
Exactly.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
For our listeners, just because you see waterproofing doesn't mean they covered something up.
Okay.
Don't make that assumption. But on the other hand, for the most part, that's what most people are doing.
Okay. So literally, again, encapsulation is not the same thing as waterproofing. So going back to waterproofing, so abrasive removal of mold has been done. Now waterproofing happens. Where should people be waterproofing?
Once again, you're going to hear differing opinions on this, but for the most part, like all exterior walls, we waterproof at the base of it, so at the floor level, for 8 to 10 inches up.
Okay.
And we waterproof anything that's cellulose. So if there's OSB, which is wood, we waterproof that for just 8 to 10 inches up.
Okay.
Now, there's projects I've been on, like the government project a few years ago. They required waterproofing all the way up the wall.
Okay.
But you only need it from the floor level up to like 10 inches, meaning that the water shouldn't get any higher than that.
Yeah.
If it's in a wall cavity, the mold can still grow above that. Mm-hmm. So keep that in mind. The other places is any areas adjacent to plumbing sources. We're in our podcast booth. Mm-hmm. If we were waterproofing in here adjacent to plumbing sources, where would that be?
Adjacent to where the bathroom is, right?
But there isn't one in here. My point is there's no plumbing.
No, there's no plumbing.
So you wouldn't need to.
No, you wouldn't need to. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But here's the big butt. We're in a basement. So if there was a flood in the basement,
Well,
we would do 8 to 10 inches up.
Exactly.
If we were above us on the main level
Mm-hmm.
and we didn't have any plumbing sources adjacent to us, we wouldn't need to waterproof.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
That does make sense.
Areas adjacent, like let's say, you have a mold problem in your bathroom, the vanity gets removed, the toilet gets removed, maybe not the tub, but the sheetrock, the wall covering was removed so you can see the wall studs.
Mm-hmm.
You would, everything adjacent to, like behind the sink, behind the toilet, next to the tub, you would waterproof that.
Oh, okay. That makes
sense.
sense.
So anywhere where there can be a moisture intrusion event.
Okay.
Which could be anywhere, but you understand what I'm saying, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that
Clear
makes
as
sense.
mud.
Clear as mud. So what do people waterproof with?
It depends on the materials, but for the most part, we use what's called Aftershock. It's a product manufactured by Fiberlock.
Okay.
It's expensive. That's the stuff you've seen me purchase. Just the 1 gallon of it is like $150.
And you get what you pay for.
Yeah. Like 5 gallons of it is over $500.
Okay.
It's very expensive.
But it's top notch.
Exactly.
Okay.
Or you can use Kills.
Which you
primer.
can get any Lowe's, Home Depot. Okay.
You can buy 5 gallons of that for $125.
Okay.
It serves the same purpose. It's just not as thick.
Ah, okay. Not as thick. So it would require more Kills to get the same.
Not necessarily, no.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, to get the same thickness as Aftershock, yes.
Okay, gotcha. So either one works is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Most of my clients go with Kills.
Okay, because it's readily available.
And for the most part, I don't know though. What would you say? Because you will hear me at the end of a project say, all I got to do is waterproof. I would say probably 70% of my clients have me do it, and probably 30% do it on their own.
And, when people are doing it on their own, again, they get it all over their face. They don't have the right gear. I mean, there's just lots of things that can go wrong when you are not used to doing that kind of work.
Well, on the last project I was on, they painted my ladders and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, so they got it everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. so
it wasn't done the way I would do it.
No. So what's your call to action for people?
For our listeners, if you're going to have remediation done, make sure after your PRV, after you've tested the moisture content in the wood, make sure you waterproof. It's just a preventative measure. It only costs you a few $100. Just do it.
Okay.
Clear as mud.
Clear as mud.
All right. Well, I think last week we promoted VPAs. So consultations, that's kind of what I started doing right when we tried to digitize the business. So I've been doing that for quite a while.
And it's super helpful because if you are listening to this episode and you're thinking, I know I have a mold issue. I don't know where to start. I feel totally overwhelmed. I don't even know how we're going to do this. A mold consultation will help you get clarity and a plan.
Exactly. And obviously I've been doing this for a lot of years. So it's simple. If you're a listener, go to our website. Isn't there a tab, a link?
cnccontractorservices.com. And then I think you can look up consult or services, but either way, it will take you there and you can book your consult.
Yeah. And we have different packages.
Yes.
For remediation, for buying a new home, for building a home. We have a ton of different packages. So
yeah. And if you have questions about which package should you get, just send an email to info@cnccontractorservices.com and we're happy to help.
Exactly. So for those of you that celebrate the holidays, happy holidays. It's coming up quickly. So we appreciate all of you. Have a great week.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If mold in your home has you up at night, wondering if your house is making you sick, it is time for a plan. With a mold consult, in other words, the mold environment assessment and evaluation plan from CNC Contractor Services, you will get a 90-minute strategy call with Steve Worsley, who will review your home environment, answer your toughest questions, and create personalized mold recommendations and next steps just for you. Don't let mold concerns take over. Take control. Visit cnccontractorservices.com to schedule your mold consult today so you can breathe easier in your home tomorrow.